Well, hello, listeners, and it's an honor this time on our Business Spotlight series to have Giovani Gonzalez with us of the Social Rook. In the Business Spotlight series, it's great to get to speak with ambitious business owners and business leaders that are making an impact through their business and making a splash in their specific industry. Giovani, it's great to have you with us on this session. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the Social Rook's beginnings.
Sure. Thanks, Matt. I'm Giovani Gonzalez, the founder and partnership manager at the Social Rook. We're a digital marketing firm based in Charlotte, located specifically near the South Park area. We also do some branding solutions and branding work. Got started as a freelancer 7 years ago in 2018, and that little by little started growing. And then COVID happened, and that growth was kind of stunted in a way. And then waited 2 years until starting to bring on full-time employees, and here we are, a team of over 10 folks, serving partners all over the nation, and really starting to grow here in Charlotte.
Oh, that's great. It's great. Being in the Mooresville area, the greater Charlotte area, it's good to see good things happening around us. I know that in the ad and kind of marketing space, there's many different specialties and offerings. Talk a little bit about your core services and what you feel your primary value offers are.
Yeah, so our bread and butter primarily started off as paid social. That was really important for me to start my business with one focus. And then that expanded over time into paid search. So that's, start off with Meta, Facebook / Instagram, and then paid search, Google. And then more and more of our clients were asking for other services that we weren't offering at the time, but today we do. It just took time to kind of build those services out. But I'd say our bread and butter is paid search and paid social, and then pair that now today with what we call creative studio services, which is where the branding solutions, the design work comes in. If I look at those 7 years of work at the beginning, it was just like, we're not touching the creative. Just give us what you need. We'll run it. We're great at buying the media and making sure you're profitable. Today we have the capability to help build a foundation for really solid what we call conversion rate optimization, making sure that when traffic goes to the website or a landing page, that things convert. So from start to finish, we're able to guide a customer or prospect customer from a click all the way to a conversion.
Okay, so we'll definitely come back to that, because I think that's part of what helps someone not only determine where to put ad spend, but to really understand the return on that ad, or the cost per click, cost per lead, those types of metrics. But before we get into that, knowing that you started out in paid search and now I'm assuming full web services and content design services as well in that creative studio space, is that right?
Yeah, creative studio services, right.
Okay. And so talk a little bit, if you would, about your team and kind of how you divide that body of work.
Yeah, so we have we've hired 2 more people as of the last two months. So we have a project manager, we have a media buyer, we have 2 graphic designers here in house, another contractor who helps with some design work when things overflow. And then we have 2 marketing specialists. Those folks are people that specialize in social media management, content generation, copywriting, the Swiss Army knife in the marketing space. And then we have an Amazon expert. I guess that's the best way. That's his best title, because I was going to call him a media buyer. But we call him an expert because there's not a single question we've ever asked him regarding to, or a partner has asked him regarding to Amazon, that he's unable to answer. So building stores, running campaigns inside the Amazon store. And then we have a web development contractor as well.
Sounds like your approach there has been specialization, and that's been a key to your staffing strategy. What's one of the main things you look for in hiring a member that would be interested in joining the team at the Social Rook?
Yeah. So I've been lucky to have really great hires, great people. When I'm interviewing, I'm trying to find out what is it that they want out of life, more so than what their skill set is. Just because it's important to find someone who really wants to grow and is all about learning and very adaptable. This space changes constantly, and so if someone is not adaptable, very stuck in their ways, and likes to do things a certain way, it's just not ideal. So we try to find someone that has the learning capabilities and desire to learn and grow. In addition to that, something that I've identified as grit. Like, if things don't go your way, are you able to still finish? Are you still able to complete the task or the objective? Because our space is filled with a lot of objections from like prospects that were in campaigns that we're running, or it could just be little bumps in the road as we're creating a campaign or working through stuff with a partner, exploring things we've never explored before, and that grit is important. So I would say everyone on our team has that, and I tell them, yeah, when I first bring them on that first week, I tell them I'm going to figure out like what their ceiling is in terms of capacity. Like, I want to know what their maximum capacity is, and when do they start to kind of like say, hey, I'm about, like, this is a lot. And I tell them that up front, like, that's part of my goal, is to figure out like what is their capacity, and what their limit is. And what I found over the years is that they're also able to exceed that limit, and sometimes like be like, yeah, I'm good now. It's normal now.
Yes.
So just grit in general is really important.
Yes, team development, the performance of the team being greater than the individual members of the team is an area that is just absolutely fascinating, and one of the most impactful areas in helping a business to outgrow its competition, or it's even just against its year over year performance. And in there, that environment or culture that supports risk taking, I think that's a bit of what you're talking about. But I find that in these business spotlights, as well as just in working with clients, as a fundamental key that differentiates successful businesses, which to me, just to quantify that a little bit, you're consistently experiencing that double-digit growth year over year. You're adding team members. You're expanding into new spaces and industries by challenging self. Those things all seem to be present there. So applaud, you with starting with that, to kind of do that expectations management on the way in with those team members, to say, we're an environment that's going to push each other to our limits.
Yeah.
And just, mediocrity is not an option for the social.
No. And one of my favorite things is when we bring someone on, I sit with them the first day and we try to give them a task and say, we need this done like by tomorrow, and just to see how they handle it. It's not necessarily like an external facing dedeline. Just want to see what level of quality they bring to the table.
Yeah. And it's interesting.
Expand.
Yeah. That's a great point. It really is. And I think it just triggered a thought there that obviously was going to come out whether I wanted it to or not. And that's the power in talking with teams that are growth, of not being afraid to do basically a working interview with individuals, and have them have the opportunity to not only come in and see what they're able to do, but see how they feel about the team that they're part of and the culture that's part of the environment there. So as you've added those team members and you think about just the leadership aspect of your business now versus maybe a little bit more of that just kind of beat the street that you had early on, and of course came through the pandemic, what are some things that you kind of feel on the daily, feel differently in leading a team in business, as opposed to being what we call, we lovingly call a solopreneur?
Yeah, so I made that shift when I decided to grow the company into something that would drive a million in revenue, right? Like, I didn't see that being possible just being by myself with a team of contractors. And it probably could have been, but I wanted to be very intentional about that. And then building a company that is primed for continued growth and then eventually a potential sale. If I sold the company, I couldn't really sell it as a solopreneur. I'd worked with other marketers who were solopreneurs who brought us in for like media buying, and I saw their journey. Some gentleman there's a specific gentleman who I knew was a little bit, he was towards retirement. He's like, I've been doing this too long, and I was like, man, I don't want that to be me.
Feel that way.
Yeah. So that helped me kind of put things into perspective. So, I wanted to build culture. I brought people on, and we implemented EOS, which helped us kind of establish core values and live and breathe those out. And we live and breathe out those core values every day in team meetings. They're not just like something that lives in a hidden document somewhere. And yeah, so I find myself spending 20% of the time, because I'm also like in charge of business development. My goal was to get to the point where I can spend 20% of the time leading and 80% of the time building relationships. And I went from doing all the work day in, day out to, this year is the first year where I've been able to really focus on establishing relationships and
Great.
positioning myself into the person you want to talk to in regards to the business side of things, but not always the strategy person or the person on the phone calls. I do hop in on a lot of calls with existing partners, but those are strategic. Those can be based on based on the level of partner they are, or just at the beginning, making sure everything kicks off really well and that campaigns are working smoothly, and then the team kind of takes over. And we have a lot of steps in the process for people to feel like they're an extension of me as well, and there's trust built across my team and our partners too.
Okay, wonderful. So if you think back to some of those maybe preconceived notions you had, or maybe even others that are listening to this later on and are contemplating a business venture or are wondering where to go next in their own journey and have some ideas, what's a misconception you think that's out there in business, especially in entrepreneurship? And if you could give yourself some advice, back in 18, before this particular stretch of your career, what would that be?
Well, I think if you're an entrepreneur, I think you're an entrepreneur.
Agreed.
Right? You really struggle being in an environment where you can't help make decisions or do things differently. And if you're one of those folks and you go to your 9 to 5 every day, and that's kind of who you are, and you really struggle internally, and you have all of these ideas, you're probably an entrepreneur. And I'd say just, if you're at that point and you're starting to explore ideas, like, I think entrepreneurs have endless amounts of ideas. And I learned that about myself in my 20s, that I just like this idea machine. But it wasn't until I decided to take action and start to measure my activity around growing something where I've started to find results. So ideas are just ideas until you actually start, putting those bricks and putting those bricks out one at a time to build this house, right, over time in this business. So taking action is just critical. So if you have your 9 to 5 and you're trying to start a business, I would recommend blocking out X amount of time throughout your day, whether that be at the office, at lunch, and definitely after work hours. Turn off the Netflix and the streaming stuff or the gaming, whatever it is that you're doing that's hindering you. That time can be spent devoted towards growing this concept in this business that you've wanted to grow. So at that point, I think it's just, that was the biggest thing for me. It was just, I had a newborn kid, and I had my full-time job, and I was starting this, and it felt like it was nonstop, and it just required that. At first, it required a lot of time, a lot of energy, and it will feel that way. And not to say it doesn't stop, but it's definitely required in order to kind of pursue entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. In the business coaching space, it's often said that the most important client is yourself, right? You've got to be walking the walk to be able to really demonstrate these things. One of those, as you just alluded to, that most clients will start with, depending on what their goals are, is we'll go through this exercise of a time study. And it is quite revealing, just even in 15 or 30-minute kind of chunks, just for a period of time, 3 days, to track where that time is going. And the reallocation of small percentages of concentrated effort clearly can have compounding results and effect on not only one's business, but generationally on life.
And I tap into, 100%. I tap into that whenever I feel like I'm feeling sluggish or need to be re-energized. I tap back into that same mentality. It's just like, I have to tap back into the, get gritty, spend more time. And it's required sometimes, and you have ebbs and flows as business owners.
That's right.
But
I put
sometimes that re-energizes me.
Absolutely. So as you think about keeping that balance of a very demanding business, a team that you care deeply about and are committed deeply to, how do you maintain that balance so that Giovanni's at 110%, so to speak?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's not something I struggle with every day.
Every business person, right?
Every day, but I have routine things like working out. That's important just to get some energy out there and feel strong. So that, I work out. I also put the things I want to do for myself on my calendar, because I live and breathe my calendar, and everything that I do is on my calendar. I just put the things I want to do for myself on the calendar, and so they're likelier to get done. And then scheduling trips, it's like if that's on the calendar and it's already planned out, like I already have 3 trips planned out this year, like those are on the calendar. I can look forward to them. There will be minimal work being done. There'll be some check-ins, but yeah, I think it's just that, and I'm a huge advocate for therapy. So like mental health is important, and I've been doing therapy for the last 4 years, seeing a therapist, and that's allowed me. And we talk a lot about business because it's one of those spaces where I'm allowed to kind of just speak about anything, and lastly, I'd say that just a networking group, or just a group of peers, entrepreneurs, where they can understand like your perspective, I think is also important.
A lot of great insights there. I really appreciate not only your time, but your transparency. A few things I heard in there really resonated with me, and kind of working, backward in my mind. That self-management, that skill of self-management, time management, we might call it, because really we're managing our own time. Otherwise, we're influencing results through others. But the only time we can really manage is our own. And that discipline in the tactics start with a dream. We break that down into a goal, and typically between our goal and our end game where we want to be, we've got a gap in our knowledge. So between the goal and the plan, we've got a knowledge gap that we need to bridge as well. So that's that continual, student mindset, that lifetime learner. We've got to learn to earn. And I think, as you talk about those networking groups and some of the things that you've used to keep yourself sharp, and especially in a heavily technology driven trade, it's ever evolving, even while we're sleeping now with the, increase even of AI.
Yeah.
Yeah. So big variables there. So put it on the calendar. I like the culture based on grit. Grit is just that determination, that tenacity, that willingness to fail one more time. And then the person that you're doing better, or the business that you're competing against, is, our success is usually just one step past where we oftentimes will stop. So appreciated you sharing that, just with regard to grit. One of the things you also said about wants to grow, there's such an important piece there. I think it would be fair to say every person I talk to wants the dream. The question is, do they want to do that learning, that work, put in the schedule, the discipline, which can be uncomfortable, to be able to execute on the plan and do the actions to get them. So that want or desire to grow, I appreciate you sharing that. And one that I hope anyone that's watching this later on will take with gravity, because that's the inner self and that desire, which, if we can stay connected to our why, we'll be able to keep our way. And with that being said, I do again appreciate your time and wish you continued success in business and with your team at the Social Rook. For those of you that are looking for support and guidance, give Giovani and his team at the Social Rook a call, whether that be in getting the most out of your marketing spend or making sure you have clear vision in your business so that those that are looking for you can find you for what you want to be found for. And with that, we're signing off of this one. Thanks for watching this session of our Business Spotlight series.